It's Saturday, December 21st, 2024. I get a text from my friend Matt. This would be a great YouTube video if you can get it out in the next day or two. Just reading through it. Recently posted as a comment on Reddit, and the guy posted his dad's schizo story of a Grinch live-action sequel. I'm not gonna read that, but then I look at my YouTube analytics. What do I have to lose? The choice is made. The story you were about to hear was written by Bob C., based off of the Jim Carrey Grinch live-action movie. The Grinch is a character created by Dr. Seuss. So without further ado, I present to you The Grinch number 2. Alright, let me do this Grinch shit. Okay, yeah, this is for you, Matt. Merry Christmas, bro. Alright, this is the third time I've tried to start this too, because there's a lot of noise around all the time, but yep, we got ways to do it. Alright, so let's begin. As you remember, the Who's of Whoville were celebrating Christmas with the Grinch and Martha May Whovier at the town of Whobilation. Grinch, as you know, was even elected as the holiday cheermeister after being nominated by Cindy Lou Who. Of course, this infuriated Mayor Augustus Mayhew, but what made him even more furious was the fact that the Grinch and Martha's relationship continued to grow. They couldn't stay away from each other. Martha realized, though, she would have a tough task ahead of her, as she would have to teach him, referring to the Grinch, manners, courtesy, and respect for the others, so he would fit in with the villagers. She would help him change his horrible diet and disgusting table manners. Not only will this help him fit in better, but it will create a healthier lifestyle for him. Alright, so now we're using the camera here to set the scene. Alright, camera shows his first time in a restaurant. He and Martha sit down at the table. A waitress asks them if they would like something to drink. Martha orders a glass of red wine, and he orders a bottle of Tabasco sauce. Martha corrects him and suggests a glass of red wine for him also. Martha, with an embarrassed look on her face, realizes it's going to be a long night and asks the waitress, "Could you please get us a bottle of red wine instead?" The waitress leaves and returns with 2 wine glasses and 2 menus. She says she will be back with the bottle of wine. As she leaves, the Grinch grabs the wine glass and bites off the base. Martha, in a panic, stops him and pulls the base from his mouth before he eats it and places it on the table. Martha says, "Honey, please put the rest of that glass on the table. I'll ask the waitress for a new one." And the Grinch replies, "Oh good, that one tasted horrible. What is wrong with these restaurants today?" The waitress returns with a bottle of wine. Martha, looking quite frazzled, says, "Could you please get us a new wine glass? He accidentally knocked this one off the table and it broke." Grinch, "I didn't do." Martha hardly puts her hand over his mouth to stop him. The waitress leaves to get a new wine glass, and the Grinch grabs the bottle of wine and starts to guzzle it down. Martha says, "Grinch, please stop! You're embarrassing me! When the waitress returns with a new glass, I will pour you a glass and show you the proper way to drink it." Before the waitress returns, Martha, being a little rattled, pours herself a glass and guzzles it down. And the Grinch replies, "That's the way you're supposed to drink it?" "No! You must have misunderstood me. I'm showing you how not to drink it." The waitress returns with his new glass and says, "I'll give you folks a few minutes to look over the menu." She walks away, and Martha pours herself a second glass, and then pours him, referring to the Grinch, a glass as well. Martha pours herself a second glass, and then pours him a glass too. "Okay, you have to sip it slowly to savor the flavor. Watch me." This is fucking stupid. Martha slowly takes a sip and says, "And that's the proper way to drink your wine." The Grinch raises the glass to his mouth and starts to gulp, and Martha raises her hand and says, "No, no, no, no! Sip it slowly." He slowly takes a sip, moving his lips in a motion while looking upward, as he is deciding if he likes it. He takes a second sip, nods his head up and down a couple of times and says, "I love it!" Martha picks up a menu and hands it to the Grinch, and then picks up one for herself.
If you need help choosing anything, just let me know. And don't be afraid to ask me any questions if you don't understand.
Can I just have yesterday's leftovers?
No, that's disgusting! And it's not safe.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll have today's leftovers.
No, sweetheart. That's still disgusting. And it's not good for you. You have to start eating better. You must start eating healthier. From now on, you will only eat fresh food. Okay?
The Grinch studies the menu and says to Martha,
I think I'll have the filet mignon.
and Martha replies,
That's pronounced filet mignon.
What is filet mignon?
It's a type of steak which I know you will enjoy. I think I'm going to have the lasagna.
The waitress comes and asks, "Hello, Martha. Hello, Grinch. Are you ready to order?" The waitress turns to Martha. "Martha, can I start with you?" And Martha answers,
Let's start with him because he's going to need some help with this. Go ahead, Grinch. Give it a try.
I'll have the filet mignon.
with a snooty voice. "How would you like that cooked?"
If you don't know how to cook it, you shouldn't be in the restaurant business.
Martha says to the waitress.
I'm sorry, he doesn't understand.
Martha to the Grinch.
What she means is, do you want it rare, medium, or well done?
And the Grinch says with a grumpy voice,
Of course I want it done well. If I wanted it done lousy, then I wouldn't pay these outrageous prices at this restaurant. Now would I?
Grinch! No! What she means, oh, never mind.
Martha to the waitress.
He would like it medium, please.
And the waitress says while looking at the Grinch, what side would you like? Grinch, while looking quite confused, points with both hands to the right and then points to the left. Then he points in front of himself and says,
I would prefer to have it right here.
Martha again steps in and says,
He will have the baked potato, please.
Waitress, again looking at the Grinch. Soup or salad?
Yes.
Waitress looks at Martha for help. Martha says,
Salad, please.
Martha tells the Grinch.
You have to choose one or the other. You can't have both.
Waitress to Martha. And, what dressing would he like?
He would like the blue cheese dressing.
Hey, did you hear the one about the cook who caught the salad dressing?
While laughing out loud, he says,
I love that one. It cracks me up every time.
The waitress gives a quick look, nervous smile, and immediately turns to Martha and asks what she wants. Martha says,
I'll have the lasagna. And a salad with the house dressing.
Grinch, laughing out loud, says again,
I never saw a house dressing. Was it made of bear wood?
The waitress turns and leaves as quickly as possible. Martha takes another large gulp from her wine glass. Camera pans away and shows them leaving the restaurant, commenting on what a great meal they had, and flagging down a cab. And we're back to the narrator here. Every day, every outing that Martha and Grinch do together is a challenge for Martha. She loves him dearly, but he is not easy to deal with. One day, Martha took him grocery shopping. It was his first time in a grocery store. Martha grabbed a shopping cart and started going down the aisle.
Let me do it.
Grinch says, as a small child would do, jumping up and down. Martha lets Grinch take over, pushing the cart.
Okay, but please be careful.
Martha would grab items off the shelf and put them in the cart. Grinch says,
Let me do it.
Grinch slides his arm down the shelf, knocking half of the items into the cart, but the other half onto the floor. Martha, quite loudly, says,
Grinch! Please stop! You're making a mess, and we do not need all that stuff! Put them back on the shelf and help me pick up everything!
The Grinch, being the Grinch, rolls his eyes, and while mumbling under his breath, does as she is asked. Wait, there's a typo. Does as he is asked, but of course is putting everything in the wrong spots. Upside down, etc. Thankfully, though, a stock boy comes around the corner and tells them not to worry. He will take care of everything. Martha says to the stock boy,
Thank you so much for your help. We are so sorry.
Martha turns to the Grinch and tells him to apologize to the stock boy. The Grinch, while looking down towards his feet, and with a sad face mumbling softly, I'm sorry. And Martha says,
Grinch, say it like you mean it.
Grinch, with his hands to his side, shuffles his right foot and says louder, I'm very sorry. The stock boy says, That's okay, Mr. Grinch. I'll take care of it. Finally, they move on. When they turn the corner and go up to the next aisle, the Grinch crashes the cart into a lady's cart, which was way on the other side of the aisle. The lady looks up the Grinch and gives him a dirty look. The Grinch says to Martha,
What's her problem?
Grinch! You crashed the cart!
But she was parked there.
So go around her!
The Grinch, rolling his eyes, says,
Well, I guess I could have done that.
They go to the end of the aisle, and then the Grinch cuts the corner to a sharp and bangs the cart into a display shelf loaded with soft drink bottles, knocking the bottom leg of the shelf out, and all the bottles rolled down from the shelf for what they seemed like an eternity. I am not sure what I just read. I am not reading that. I've tried that like 3 times. I think it changes like tense like 4 times in there. Holy moly guacamole. Grinch, putting his hands around his mouth and quite loudly yells,
Clean up on aisle 6. Oh my, I just cracked myself up.
Around the corner comes the same stock boy that just finished cleaning up their last mess. Grinch says to the stock boy,
You know, it's really not my fault. My girlfriend pushed me.
That is absolutely positively not true. That's it. I'm taking cart duty away from you until you learn to be more careful.
The Grinch to the stock boy,
She said duty.
and laughs out loud. The stock boy shakes his head and bends down, starting to pick up the mess. Martha takes over the cart, and she says to him,
Honey, please stop acting like a child. You must be more careful and thoughtful to people around you.
Yeah, well, but I'm always say I'm sorry, and I help pick up the stuff on the floor. So I think I'm good.
Okay, I agree. That's nice, but you shouldn't be causing the problem in the first place.
Okay. I promise I will get better. Baby steps, Martha. Baby steps.
Martha rolls her eyes. The Grinch picks up a bundle of bananas and asks Martha,
Why are all these fat and yellow, not brown and floppy?
That's the way they're supposed to look when they are fresh. Put them in a cart. You will love them, but you have to wait until we are home to eat them.
The Grinch looks at a loaf of bread and asks,
So this is white and not green. What's the deal?
And Martha says,
Just like bananas, except it's white when it's fresh and turns green and moldy when it starts to go bad.
That explains everything. I thought the hoosh didn't like anything that was green.
And back to the narrator here. They continue going up and down the aisles, with Martha... They continue going up and down the aisles, with Martha choosing what to buy, while explaining what each item is, and sometimes she would ask the Grinch to grab items that were too high for her, and he would place them in the cart. How lovely. It seems as though the Grinch is starting to calm down, and learn what it is to be more helpful and thoughtful. All of a sudden, Grinch stops in front of a shelf, with cans of baked beans. He says,
Martha, what are all these?
Those are baked beans. Why do you ask?
When I would scrounge the who's trash for food, I would come across these cans, but they would always be empty. I would rub my finger on the inside of the can and get most of it if I could, then lick my finger. I loved the taste of it. Can we get some?
Oh, okay. But you can't have too much at a time, because it gives you gas.
what the fuck?
And you certainly don't need any more than you already have. Take like 3 cans for now, and you will see if you like it.
While muttering under her breath,
Or if I like it.
the camera fades away, fades into a scene at his cave. The Grinch would return to his cave after spending a day with Martha May, and would try to convince himself that he was happy in his own surroundings.
I've all these modern conveniences. I have plenty of delicious food.
Camera showing him picking up handfuls of broken glass.
Although I do have to admit, the filet mignon the other night was to die for.
Grinch says to Max.
I don't really need people to like me.
He cups his hands around his mouth and yells,
I don't really need people to like me.
You hear the echo repeat.
I don't really need people to like me. I don't really need people to like me. I don't really need people to like me.
The Grinch yells back with a questionable look on his face.
Right?
The echo yells back.
You are an idiot!
Grinch looks frustrated and bounces back into his chair. Grinch looks at Max and says,
Right?
Max growls. The Grinch stands back up and says,
Okay, maybe I'm not right. I think I'm in love and I want to spend the rest of my life with Martha May.
Grinch does a happy dance. Grinch looks down at Max. What? What is that sentence? Grinch does a happy dance. Grinch looks down at Max, who is also doing a happy dance. Why? What is happening? I don't understand. Alright, the camera fades away. The Grinch and Martha May continue to see each other for many months. On this one special day, the two of them are having a great time at the Leon de Hubelchen. What the fuck does that say? Hubation. Alright, the Grinch... Oh my god, my hair is in my mouth. Oh, I should have brought my glasses. Alright, the Grinch and Martha May continue to see each other for many months. On this one special day, the two of them are having a great time at the Leon de Hubation with all the townspeople. For those who don't know, Leon Day is June 25th, which is halfway to Christmas. Leon is Noel spelled backwards. Alright, thank you for that note. Alright, the Grinch takes Martha's hand and walks her up to the head of the table, where the mayor and all the town's officials are sitting. Martha is totally confused as to what is happening. I think I know what's going to happen here. The Grinch stops with Martha in front of the mayor and reaches over and grabs the microphone.
Could I please have all your attention?
He puts the microphone back on the table next to him. He turns to Martha and kneels down on one knee and asks,
Martha May, will you be my wife?
She is excited and overwhelmed.
Yes! 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 Oh my god, yes!
He opens a ring box and takes out a beautiful ring and slides it onto her finger. Then stands and gives her a big kiss. All the Who's in Whoville are cheering and clapping and excited for the couple. Except for one. The camera does a close-up of a disgusted look on the mayor's face. This again is Mayor Augustus Mayhew. They both go back to their table and she asks him,
Where did you get this beautiful ring?
I made it the same time I made you the Christmas ornament that I brought to school that day. I wanted to give it to you the same day as the friendship ring. But you know, that didn't go very well.
What? The camera fades into flashback. We all know how that turned out. Show flashback of the Grinch making the ornament, and also a new scene of him making her the ring with small fragments of the stones of various colors he broke up with the hammer. He's making the Infinity Gauntlet. He melted, cue the fucking Avengers music. Oh my god, what is this? He melted the small fragments onto a small ring he found. He had the ring in his pocket when he went to school that day, but never gave it to her, because that day turned out so awful for him. Oh, is this when he's like a little kid? Yeah, okay. He had that ring in his pocket when he ran away from Whoville, thinking he would never return. He cherished that ring and saved it as a resemblance of Martha. It's a little weird, dude. Camera fades into the following scene. We see a scene of Martha and Grinch sitting in Martha's home, with many discussions on whether to move into a new home or stay in her existing home, and what to do with his cave and all his belongings.
How about we sell this dump and move into my cave? It is completely furnished. Plenty of space. You don't have to worry about taxes, crowds,
Excuse me.
paying bills.
Got a little throaty there. Before he got to finish, Martha said,
That is completely off the table! First of all, this place is not a dump, and there's absolutely no way I would move into that dark, dirty, damp, disgusting hole in the mountain.
Okay, well, I guess I could agree. It does have some minor issues.
while nodding his up and down and counting on his fingers, he says,
No fresh air, no bathrooms, no fire exit, no open floor concept between the cooking area and eating area. Oh, how I love that look. And not enough room for that king-size bed we want.
Well, I'm glad you came to your senses on that topic. We can live here for a while.
Oh, fuck!
And then we can start looking for a larger place to live. Well, we'll have enough room to start a family someday. That's right! A family! My clock is ticking, and I would love to have a child. Wouldn't you?
Grinch, still looking in shock.
Well, I guess I never really thought about it before. But I guess I would love to have some baby Marthas and baby Grinches around. If we want a new house and raise a family.
Grinch put his finger on his lips for a couple of seconds and points his finger in the air as if he has an idea.
I have to figure out how to earn a living. I've got to get a job.
Lou said there's an opening at the post office.
No way I can stay in a building all day. I have to tinker, design things, build things with my bare hands. Just like all those inventions in my cave.
Pacing back and forth with his arms to his side, he says,
I know some of them seem primitive, but it was with junk I collected from the Who's trash.
Still pacing.
And with hardly any tools, except for a broken, worn-out tools that would come out of the trash chute every now and then. Even most tools I would make myself.
The Grinch is actually very lucky with his timing to live in Whoville, as they had closed the trash chute. They had created a trash-to-energy power station and recycling center. What the fuck? What? What is a trash-to-energy I'm not even questioning it. I'm just, what the hell? This is awesome. Most of his Most of his food stores had stopped in the process. The Who's intention was to shut him off as they didn't know he was living off their garbage. The Who's intention was not to shut him off as they didn't know he was living off their garbage. They just wanted to create a cleaner environment all around them. That's just lovely.
I've got it!
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear this.
We might have to get a loan from the bank to get started, but we can build a ski slope on the mountain. Make my cave into some sort of clubhouse. Or a lodge, and maybe a food stand. I can build a gondola to carry people up and down the mountain. When there is no snow, we can just give rides. I'm getting so excited just thinking about it. I can do it. I know I can.
Grinch gets up and does his happy dance. All right, picture that all there. I don't know, maybe it's in the gritty or something. All right. And Martha says,
I have never seen you so excited. You know what? I believe you can do it. What a great idea, Grinch.
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
And Martha says while giggling with excitement,
What? What? Tell me, what is it?
The old trash chute. We can clean it real good and let the kids slide down it. And when they're at the bottom, they can ride it to the gondola back to the top. Maybe I'll even paint it so it looks like a big, long candy cane.
he points to each of his fingers.
We can serve hot chocolate and coffee in the colder months, and serve ice cream and soft drinks and shakes in the summer. We can barbecue roast beef sandwiches and roast beef burgers.
Beast burgers, what the fuck? Mr. Beast! Why? What? Okay, I don't...
We can barbecue roast beef sandwiches and roast beast burgers.
Grinch rubs his belly and says,
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. I'm going to the town hall tomorrow to see what we have to do to get this started.
I'll go with you because I love this idea. And I want to be a part of it. I'm not sure how the mayor is going to feel about it, but it's actually a win-win.
Fuck.
It's going to be so much fun for the kids and adults. We are cleaning up dirty sites and creating jobs and tax revenue for Whoville. Woot woot! Let's do it!
I've got to write down some of these ideas, and I'll make some sketches to show the mayor that I've got.
The camera fades away and then fades back into a variety of scenes in fast motion. The Grinch with a pencil in each sides of his head, a pencil sideways in his mouth, and of him drawing, making lines with a ruler, drawing with a protractor and a compass ruler. Papers flying all over the place. Grinch tearing up plans, loud mumblings of "fuck this." The Grinch stands up from his drawing table and holds up one of his large blueprints. You can barely see the drawings because the camera is showing from the backside of the paper, looking towards the Grinch. He says,
"We will name it Mount Crumpet Park."
The camera fades away and fades into a scene at the town hall. Martha and Grinch do go to the town hall with their ideas and sketches and blueprints. They see Mayor Mayhew and sit with all their plans. Grinch sets up a tripod and pulls down the large sketch of the entire park complex. He opens up a telescope pointer and begins to explain to the mayor. While pointing to each section, as he explaining, the Grinch says,
"At the bottom of the mountain, we will have a gate entrance to the park. There will be 2 food stands. One around here, and one will be on the top of the mountain. We can have one of those big round turning things here."
Martha jumps in.
Ferris wheel?
Over here, the guests can hop to a gondola for the ride to the top. Or during the ski season, the skiers can take the ride on the ski lift. The skiers will ski down the slope, which ends here, and they will get back on the ski lift here. Also, somewhere around here, we will have a large hot air balloon, which will take up 6 passengers up and down the mountain.
Again, while pointing with his pointer,
"The kiddos, maybe their parents if they dare, can slide down the old trash chute, which we will clean up and paint it to look like a big candy cane. I will move the end of the trash chute so it doesn't go all the way down into the town. They will enter here at the top and exit here at the bottom. Hop on the gondola and do it all over again. We will have food and drinks here at the top, in front of the existing cave entrance. I will block off the cave entrance so no one can enter for now. I think if all goes well, I will eventually come up with an idea for the cave, maybe lodging or something. One phase at a time."
Martha gets up and claps with excitement and says to the mayor,
Augustus, what do you think?
and the mayor says, "Well, you know, I can benefit from tax revenue. I mean, the village can benefit from tax revenue. It is a great way to get rid of the stinky trash chute. I hate to say it, but it's a fantastic idea. I wish I had thought of it. We can name it Mayor Mayhew Park." Martha, shaking her head, says,
Oh no, we are going to name it Mount Crumpet Park. We want to preserve the history of Mount Crumpet while making it a fun place for everyone.
The mayor, while rubbing his cheek, says, "Okay, I like it. I will help you get all the permits you need." The mayor and Grinch shake hands. The mayor turns and hugs Martha. He's still not letting go for a few moments. Martha looks over at the Grinch, and Martha rolls her eyes. The Grinch says,
"Okay, Augie boy, that'll be enough."
Oh, of course. I was caught up just thinking about the park. Yes.
Camera fades away. Grinch and Max start their first of many mornings going to work on the park project. Grinch puts on a hard hat and puts on a Grinch puts on a hard hat and puts a small hard hat on Max. Max looks into the mirror and smiles, wagging his tail.
"Come on, Max, let's get started. We will never get anything done if you just want to sit here and admire yourself."
We see scenes of Grinch sawing some trees at the base of the mountain that will be the path of the gondola. We see Grinch sawing a tree and Max on the other end of the saw, hanging on for dear life, while the saw goes back and forth, and Max banging into the side of the tree. Max is starting to see stars. Grinch, in his grumpy voice, says,
"Hey, what are you doing over here? This ain't no joyride. If you're not going to help start gathering all those branches over here, then move them away."
The camera can show Max grabbing some branches with his mouth and dragging them out of the way. At the base of the mountain, he trims all the branches off a very large tree, which the end of the gondola cable will be attached to. The cables will also attach to the top of a second tree about 3/4 the way down the mountain. One of the last trees before the mountain turns into a rocky, rugged, and steep terrain. The next scene can show Grinch with a welder's helmet, holding a large steel pole to a steel base, which he has already bolted to the rocks on the side of the mountain. Grinch stops welding and opens his helmet to ask Max for another welding rod. He sees Max standing there with a welder's helmet on.
What in the world are you doing?
Grinch walks over and opens Max's helmet to find Max chewing on a dog biscuit. Grinch, while looking around, says,
Where are those welding rods I asked for?
Max pulls the helmet back down. Grinch pulls Max's helmet back open. He points to his right.
Max, come on. They're over there, in the bottom drawer of that blue toolbox over there. I already told you that. Now go get some and bring them to me. Max, you have to keep up with me. We still have 3 more poles to go.
Grinch is starting to realize how overwhelming this entire project will be. It's definitely much too big to handle himself, and he may have to employ some tradespeople to help. After all, he and Martha will need help running the park once it's opened anyway. One day while working, Grinch remembered that Gus Who built his own hot air balloon. He could use Gus to build a large hot air balloon with a basket large enough to hold about 6 people or more. Grinch will also use Gus to build about 10 smaller baskets that can hold 2 people each for the gondolas. Once the park is open, Gus can have a full-time job giving people rides. We now have a scene showing Grinch in his cave, sitting in his chair, attempting to call Gus, looking up Gus's phone number in the phone book. He's fumbling through pages and finally reaches the beginning of the list of Who's. Grinch, while running his finger vertically down the list, says,
Alan Who, Alex Who, Alice Who, Avery Who, Barbie Who.
Grinch looks at the camera.
She makes a great barbecue. Betty Lou Who, Bobby Who, Butch Who. Oh, this is ridiculous. I'll just call the operator.
Grinch dials 0 to speak to the operator. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. The operator answers. Hello, may I be of assist to you?
Can you help connect me with someone?
And who would you like to speak to?
Yes, how do you do that?
How did I know that?
Who I wanted to speak to.
I don't know who you want to speak to. You didn't tell me yet, sir.
I want to speak to Gus Who.
Please, sir, I don't have time to guess who. I'm very busy here. Can you please tell me the name of the party you'd like to speak to?
Party? What party? Why was I not invited?
Sir, there is no party. What I'm asking is, what person would you like to talk to?
His name is Gus Who. First name Gus, not Gus. Gus. And his last name is Who.
One moment, please. Grinch, while on hold, looks into the camera.
What's the deal with these phone operators? They have to pass a root test to get a job at the phone company? Like, seriously?
Grinch hears a couple of clicks, and then Gus answers the phone. Gus Who here? Grinch starts to flip out, then looks at the camera.
Oh, I am so effed up. Oops. Oh, he said Gus Who. Not Guess Who. Almost got me there.
This is so bad. Oh my
Hi,
God.
Gus. It's Grinch. I have a proposal for you. I would like to hire you to do some work for us in our new park project on Mount Crimpet. Is that something you might be interested in?
Well, Mr. Grinch, to be honest with you, I am quite bored at my present job, and I don't make very much. And I've been doing the same thing for years.
We heard you made your own balloon and basket. We were gonna need... We had heard you made your own balloon and basket. We are going to need a big hot air balloon with a basket and some smaller baskets for a gondola ride.
Well, yes, okay, I can do that. How big of a balloon are you asking?
Maybe to hold 6 or 8 people. And the gondolas, I need to hold 2 people. But I need 10 of them.
Wow, that's a pretty big project. I'm not sure if I can handle all that.
If you show Martha May and Betty Lou how to weave, they can weave all the baskets. To your the way you want them.
You mean specifications?
Yeah, sure,
Grinch says while rolling his eyes.
Whatever. And once everything is ready, you can work full-time at the park, either giving balloon rides or helping run the ski slope.
Let's get together then. Sounds like a plan.
Gus, one other thing. I'm gonna need a lot more help with, so many things.
While holding the phone to his left ear, he is talking and counting with his right hand.
I have a lot, more welding to do. Carpentry work, electrical, plumbing.
While looking at the camera.
I know I'm amazing, but I just can't do it all.
Oh, well, I'll start asking around. I'm sure we can come up with some help for you. Come on down and we'll figure this out. Grinch hangs up his phone and the camera fades away. Now, the camera can show different things. Now, the camera shows different stages of baskets being built by Gus while he trains Martha, May, and Betty Lou. Also, scenes are now seen of the new, larger hot air balloon basket being built, which will fit about 6 people. We also see scenes of Gus working on a gas heater and Martha and Betty sewing the large fabric panels together to make up the balloon. Miscellaneous additional scenes of construction are seen, along with Max and Grinch and about a dozen or so workers finishing the poles with crossbars and cables, which will support the gondola system. We also see scenes of workers hanging on the gondola baskets, painting the steel structures, supporting the gondolas, and also painting the old trash chute, giving it a clean and fun look. We also see scenes with Martha and Grinch hanging on to a rope tied at the top of the trash chute while they are scrubbing, and cleaning it all the way to the bottom, with Martha constantly complaining of the smell. We also see a scene with Max sitting on a big sponge and riding it down the chute, and of course, he has a big smile on his face. We also see scenes of final preparations before the park is closed. We are shown the park entrance with the admissions booth and the sign above the entrance, reading Mount Crumpet Park. We are shown gondolas going back and forth from top to the bottom, and the balloon ride which goes back and forth to the top also. We see 2 foot stands, one at the bottom and one at the top. Opening day comes and everybody is there. Mayor Augustus Mayhew has a speech prepared, and he steps into the front of the microphone as he always manages to do. Mayor Mayhew stands with Grinch, Martha, Betty Lou, and Gus standing to his left. Hubris and Officer Houlihan are to his right. The mayor says,
I want to thank everyone for coming today to this wonderful occasion. It took a lot of work to get to this point. When I first came up with this idea,
Grinch pokes the mayor in the back.
As I was saying, when I was suggested this idea,
Grinch pokes him in the back a little harder.
When the Grinch came up with this idea, I immediately approved of it.
The people in the audience clap and cheer.
Not only was this a great way to use that useless mountain's resources, but it also created jobs, tax revenue for the village, and lots of fun for the kiddos and adults alike. I couldn't have done it without...
Grinch pokes him in the back a third time. The mayor clears his throat.
Okay, let me now turn the mic over to the Grinch.
The crowd cheers so loudly you couldn't hear yourself think.
They are clapping and whistling, the little ones jumping up and down with excitement.
The camera pans back over to the mayor, and he is rather frustrated over the cheering for the Grinch. The Grinch takes the mic from the mayor, but he can't begin to talk because the crowd is just cheering too loudly.
Thank you,
Grinch says over the loud, cheering crowd.
Please, thank you.
Grinch puts his finger to his mouth to gesture the crowd to be quiet.
Please, we've got to get this park open so you folks can have some fun.
The crowd starts to silence.
Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to my sweetheart Martha May, Gus Who, Betty Lou, and the professor. And don't forget my little buddy Max. Also, a special thanks to all those extra people that came on board during this whole process, and to the people that are here today running the park. As a special surprise, everything today is free. Free food and drink for all.
In an extremely deepened voice, he said,
For everyone's safety, no alcohol may be purchased or consumed at this park.
Grinch puts his left hand to his mouth, and lets out an ear-piercing whistle. I can't fucking whistle, so you gotta imagine that one. The gates open as the Grinch then raises his arm in the air.
Let the fun begin!
Alright, then we get a little depiction here of Mount Crimpet Park. The camera pans over the crowd. We see them getting on the gondolas, filling up the line for the hot air balloon, and crowding around the food and drink stands. And now back to narration. As you can see, the park is a complete success. The Who's of Whoville are so happy with the additional entertainment the park provides for the entire family. Grinch and Martha become quite the celebrities in the village, which we know doesn't go over too well with the mayor. When the snow starts to fall, the ski slopes will open and the ski lift will be filled with skiers. Grinch and Martha May decide they want to get married in the fall. Wedding invitations go out to all the Who's in Whoville. The camera can show the hundreds of Who's opening their invitations and cheering with joy. The camera shows the mayor opening his invitation and a zoom in on his face, looking terribly disgusted. The villagers are so excited and can't wait for the big day. It's going to be the largest wedding celebration in the history of the village. With everyone being so busy with the park, the big day arrives in a flash. The camera shows hundreds of people sitting in an outside pavilion type setup. The Justice of Peace stands in the center of the front table. Wedding music begins with some sort of Who-style twist to it. The crowd rises to their feet. The Grinch enters from the right, wearing a tuxedo, and looks quite charming. He stops alongside the Justice and is followed by his best man, Gus Who. The maid of honor, Betty Lou Who, comes down the center aisle. Max, the ring bearer, comes next, holding a small basket in his mouth with 2 wedding bands in it. Cindy Lou Who is the flower girl, who follows dropping rose petals on her way. They all line up to the left side of the JOP. The wedding music volume increases, and Martha May comes down the center aisle with her long, flowing wedding gown, with a long train which still is at the beginning of the aisle. Martha stops in front of the JOP. Betty gathers up the train, which she keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Finally, she comes to the end and places it behind Martha. Grinch and Martha turn to each other and hold each other's hands. Grinch whispers,
You are stunning.
Martha whispers back,
And you are quite handsome yourself, young fellow.
By the way, we are dressed so nice. Oh, that's right. We are getting married today.
The camera shows Martha shaking her head lightly. Grinch has a smirk as everyone breaks out in laughter, including the JOP. The JOP says, Please be seated. Thank you. Friends and family and fellow Who's, we come here today as you are asked to witness the joining of Grinch and Martha in marriage. We gather around them now in Whoville, and we look one with love and hope as these 2 begin their new life together as one. The camera shows Max standing on his back legs, with a ring basket in his mouth alongside Grinch. Grinch in a whisper,
Max, no, not now.
Max gets back down on all fours. Marriage is a sacred institution in our culture. It's a tradition of partnership, of trust, of dependence on each other, to navigate the sometimes stormy seas of life. The camera pans to Grinch, who says, while spinning with his right index finger in a motion as to indicate let's move it along,
Blah, blah, blah.
JOP says, If anyone presents objects to these 2 being united in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. The camera shows the mayor starting to raise his hand, but he is stopped by Officer Houlihan. The JOP says, At this time, Grinch and Martha will exchange rings. The wedding ring is a symbol of love, devotion, and never-ending commitment between 2 people. The camera goes to Max, who stands on his back legs again, alongside Grinch, and once again, Grinch whispers,
No, Max, not yet.
Grinch, do you take Martha May to be your lawfully wedded wife? Will you honor and cherish her, love, trust, and commit to her? Through joy and pain, Sickness and health, until death do you part? The Grinch takes Martha's hand and says,
I do.
The ring?
Now, Max, now!
Max, while guests are laughing, stands up alongside the Grinch with the basket. Grinch reaches in and takes out Martha's ring and slides it onto Martha's finger. He says,
I do.
Martha, do you take the Grinch to be your lawfully wedded husband? Will you honor and cherish him, love, trust, and commit to him through joy and pain, sickness and health, until death do you part? Max stands near Martha, and Martha takes the ring from the basket, sliding it onto the Grinch's finger. She says,
I do.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The camera shows a close-up of Grinch with a wide smile and tears of joy in his eyes as he leans forward and gives Martha a kiss. Martha gently wipes the tears from his eyes. Grinch leans forwards again and gives her a long, passionate kiss. They turn as the guests are clapping and cheering and walk down the aisle hand in hand as the wedding party follows. The camera fades away and fades into the reception dinner. The camera shows scenes in a large hall. We see the head table up front with a newly married couple, and on each side we have members of the party crowding around them. Even Max is at the table enjoying himself, and the treats on his plate. Hundreds of tables are filled with the invited guests. The people are dancing and banging their glasses with silverware, trying to coerce the couple to kiss again. People are eating and drinking and laughing, and Grinch and Martha are having their first dance. The mayor comes up and taps on Grinch's shoulder. And the narrator says, Martha had spent a lot of time teaching Grinch how to dance. Fast dances, slow dances. She warned him of all the traditions that can occur during the reception. She even warned him of men wanting to dance with the bride, and how they would come up and tap on your shoulder. And it's a tradition, and if that's okay, you can let them cut in. The camera shows Grinch stepping aside, as the mayor takes Martha's hand, and the two of them start their slow dance. Grinch is standing alongside the two of them, with his arms folded. He looks at his watch to see how long it's been. The mayor is smiling, ear to ear, and Martha looks confused, as she doesn't know how to put a stop to it. Grinch looks over at the clock on the wall. Show the hands in fast motion, clicking a few minutes, and he decides that's enough.
Okay, Augie boy, that'll be enough. This is our day, not yours.
But I just got here. Grinch gently pulls the mayor away from Martha and says,
And now you're done. Time's up.
Grinch begins to dance with Martha, and the slow song ends. They start to walk off the dance floor when a fast song starts that they both like. They turn back to the dance floor. They start dancing, and the crowd is cheering at how fantastic they are doing together, never expecting the Grinch to be such a good dancer. The camera can continue showing more dances, more fellows tapping the Grinch's shoulder, dancing with Martha as the narrator kicks in. By far the biggest gathering of people to celebrate a wedding, Grinch and Martha May are having the time of their lives. But now we will be moving into the next chapter of their lives. The business is booming. They are now a happy couple, and Grinch definitely feels welcome as one of the citizens of Whoville. It's time to start looking for that new home they had talked about. A house that will be a little larger if they decide to start a family, and maybe a little closer to Crumpet Park. The camera fades away. The camera can show Grinch and Martha sitting on a couch together, looking at a real estate magazine. Martha points to a photo.
How about this one?
Grinch looks closely.
Too small.
Grinch points to another one. Martha says,
Too big.
Grinch points to another one. Martha says,
Too close to the mayor's house.
Ooh, good catch.
Martha turns the page and points.
How about this one?
3 stories. Too many stairs.
Oh, this one's perfect. Nice yard, sidewalk in the front, garage, close to Crumpet Park.
Grinch looks down, eyes wide open with excitement.
That is marvelous. Let's go check it out.
The narrator says, Martha and Grinch love the house and decide that's the one. Now begins the difficult task of moving in. They have to move Martha's furniture from the old home into the new one, which goes fairly smoothly. Now the camera can show people moving, carrying larger items in, and Martha and Grinch carrying smaller items in. A second larger truck pulls up to the front of the house. Grinch runs over to the truck and points to the driveway and says,
"Back it in here, boys."
Martha runs out to Grinch, who is guiding the truck back into the driveway.
What did you buy us? New furniture?
Honey, you know we can't afford to buy new furniture right now. This is all my stuff. From my cave.
Martha buries her head in her hands for a second, then covers her mouth. The tailgate opens and Martha gasps as junk starts rolling out for what seems to be an eternity. Have large bowls, pots and pans, bowling ball pins and pins, old tires, hubcaps, rolling out with the sound of dishes breaking and things banging and crashing. Martha looks over at the driver's window and sees Max there with his tail wagging 100 miles an hour. Martha walks over to the door and reaches up to grab him.
Max, you poor thing. Come to me, sweetheart. Let me show you to your new home.
Martha carries him up the sidewalk and through the front door. She gives him a big hug as she is rocking back and forth. Martha puts him down and says,
Max, follow me. I want to show you where your doggy bed is and where you can find your food. Okay, Max, you can eat or take a nap. Whatever you want to do. But Grinch and I have a lot of work to do, okay?
All of a sudden, a look of total fear comes across Martha's face when she remembered she still has to deal with that load of junk that's being unloaded. Martha runs back out front, just in time to see the Grinch dragging his ugly, torn, duct tape covered recliner off the trailer and up the sidewalk. He bumps into Martha, who is blocking the front steps, and she points to the large garage bin.
What? This chair is so comfortable. Okay, maybe it needs to be recovered. Perhaps a nice plush, mauve plaid pattern.
The camera zooms in on holes in the cushion, showing bugs crawling in and out of the crevices. Alright, now we have a little pretty picture here, alright, of Grinch moving his ugly ass chair and Martha telling him no.
Absolutely not! That is disgusting!
She points again to the junk in the bin. Next scene, Grinch is dragging the monster head loudspeaker, the one that amplified Max's back, up the sidewalk and once again is greeted by Martha.
Are you kidding me?
She points again to the bin.
But...
Once again, she points again to the bin. Next scene, Grinch is carrying his scary mask, looks at Martha, and points his thumb up and then down, as to question her thoughts. Martha gives him the thumbs down. From where he is standing, he throws it into the bin. Have repeated scenes of him holding ugly items and giving her a thumbs up, and then him lowering his shoulders and tossing them into the bin. The camera fades away. The narrator. Now that Max is comfortable in his new home, Martha decides that Max could use some company, as Martha and Grinch are going to be busy running Mount Crimpet Park. She goes to the pound and adopts a puppy that reminds her of Grinch. Martha May comes up with the name Yoo-Hoo for their new pal. The first day Yoo-Hoo comes home, the Grinch accidentally lets him out of the front door, and Yoo-Hoo takes off like a flash. The Grinch goes out the front sidewalk looking for the dog and starts to panic. He doesn't see him anywhere.
Yo-ho! Yo-ho!
A couple walking down the street side turns and says, "Who? Us?"
No! Yo-ho!
The husband says, "Who? You?" Grinch angrily says,
No! Not me! Yo-ho!
The husband points to his wife and says,
Who?
"Her?" Grinch, getting angrier, says,
No! Not her! Him!
The husband says, "What the fuck? Him? Who?" The Grinch, even angrier, says,
No! Yo-ho, my dog!
The husband says, "You don't remember your dog's name?"
Of course I remember my dog's name. His name is Yo-ho.
Then another woman walking down the street says, "Who, me?" The first man tells her, "No, his dog Yoo-Hoo." "Who? Him?
No! You who?
The second woman says again. No, him? While pointing at the dog sitting behind the Grinch, extremely frustrated and embarrassed, turns and picks up Yoo-hoo and carries him into the house, while mumbling under his breath all the way. The camera fades away. And now the narrator says, fall is in full color as the leaves are just starting to drop. Grinch and Martha's life seem perfect. The park is doing well, they love their new home, and Max and Yoo-hoo are very comfortable in their new warm and cozy home as well. The camera can show Grinch in his new recliner, reading the paper, and Martha reading Whose World magazine. The two dogs are sleeping in their beds. The topic of raising a family comes up again, and for the first time the Grinch is not in a panic. They discuss telling Martha's parents, and maybe someday becoming grandparents, and the subject of Grinch's parents comes up. Well, as you know, he doesn't know who his parents are, or where he came from, but he heard a rumor that more Grinch people live in the mountain north of Mount Crumpet. No one is really sure how that rumor got started, but the mayor one time suggested it to Grinch to see if he could find his roots. The mayor does not actually believe of this rumor, but he figures if he can convince Grinch to take a hot air balloon trip north, his chance of returning will be nearly impossible, as the wind very rarely blows southward, even though the mayor seems to be tolerating the Grinch. The mayor would probably not be too upset if the Grinch was lost to travel. The Grinch starts to look into the possibilities of making the trip in the search of his family. He decides to call Gus Who.
Gus, what do you think the chances are of making a hot air balloon trip northward? But more important, what are the chances of making a trip back home?
Well, as you know, Grinch, the air always blows north, but never to the south. Maybe once in 100 years. Why do you ask?
I want to try and find my roots, my family. I believe in the rumor of the mountains north of here, and possibly that's where my family is. It just seems to make sense.
I'm sorry, Grinch. Even if the rumor is true, the return trip doesn't seem possible without any extra sort of assistance.
Let me talk to Professor Who knows how to see what he thinks. If anybody can figure a solution out to your problem, it would be him. He was a professor of engineering at Who University of Idaho for 30 years until he retired. He still likes to dabble with projects in his workshop. I will get right back to you.
The camera fades away, then back to Gus at his home. Gus calls his friend, Professor Who.
Professor, I need some help. I need a way to help propel a hot air balloon faster and stronger than the propeller I have now.
And the professor says, picture buck teeth, nerdy glasses, and a voice like Professor Frank from The Simpsons.
I'm actually been working on a smaller version of methane gas-powered turbine that is powering the village right now from recycled leftovers.
Can you make one small enough and light enough to attach to the bottom of a hot air balloon?
Well, ironically, I've made a smaller version to experiment. If the idea would work at all, I could reconfigure my calculations, reduce the chamber size without jeopardizing the compression without jeopardizing the compression detonation. I will have to make some more changes to make it lighter and smaller, but yes, I'm sure I can. Why don't you come over and I'll show you what I already have.
I'll be right over. Gus arrives at the professor's workshop. The camera is showing everything the professor is explaining.
This round container is where the fuel is stored. The fuel consists of mostly leftovers, such as discarded fruit, vegetables, apple cores, banana peels, and miscellaneous meats. Then I reinstall the lid, then press the igniter button. The igniter button is clearly marked igniter. When you start the igniter, it moves the materials into the compressing chamber after some compression. Then it moves into the methane chamber. The methane mixes with fresh air, which enters from the air intake, which is here. Once the methane and air are properly mixed, it goes to the combustion chamber, and the igniter sets off the controlled explosions, which create the jet propulsion. which, as you know, that will push the balloon.
Wow, you are just unbelievable, Professor. How in the world did you come up with this? This is gonna be perfect. The next day, while Martha and Grinch are having their morning coffee, the phone rings. Martha answers the phone and says,
Good morning. How are you?
She listens for a second and says to Grinch,
This is for you.
He asks Martha,
Who is it?
Guess who?
Henry? George? Frank? Ralph? This is ridiculous. Who is it?
I didn't say guess who. I said guess who.
He takes the phone from Martha and complains,
What's the deal with all these who names anyway? Yes, Gus. What's up? A balloon?
The Grinch is giggling and laughing at his own joke and says,
Oh, I am just a riot.
I talked to the professor and we have an idea for the balloon. Can I come over and we can talk?
Come on over. I'm all ears.
Grinch looks directly into the camera and says,
Actually, that's not true. I have very small, adorable ears. You can't see them because of my gorgeous, flowing hair.
as he flips both his hands through each side of his hair. Gus arrives a few minutes later and rings the doorbell. Martha comes from the hallway and opens the front door.
Hello, Gus. Come on in.
Grinch is sitting at the kitchen table, eating baked beans from a can. He stops chewing for a second and yells,
Who's at the door?
I know. I let him in.
You let who in?
Yes.
Yes, who?
No. Gus who?
Please. Really?
Gus, the balloon guy.
Then why didn't you tell me that in the first place?
Martha shakes her head and points towards the hallway and tells Gus,
He's in the kitchen. Just go through there and to your right.
The Grinch gets up from the table to greet Gus, but lets out a small fart. The camera zooms in on Max. Why is this part of the plot, man? The camera zooms in on Max, who was sitting there, covers his nose with his paw. You, who is also sitting there, has that disgusted look on his face. The Grinch looks directly into the camera and says,
Oops, those beans get me every time.
What is the humor in this? It's just fucking who jokes and fucking fart jokes. This is the greatest thing ever made in fucking English literature. I love this. Oh my god. He meets Gus and asks him to sit at the table so they can talk. They both sit down at the table, and the Grinch lets out another fart and points to the open can of beans and says,
I'm so sorry. It gave me so much gas. It's crazy.
I saw you in a new car in the driveway. Did you guys buy a new car?
With all the running around we do since we opened the park, we decided we need one.
What model is it?
It's a Subaru.
Why are we, like, why is this relevant to the fucking story at all?
Very nice.
Well, anyway, I saw Professor Who Knows, and he has a solution to our problem. First, I will build another balloon, just like the one at the park. It will need to be like the big one to fit all the supplies and the equipment needed to power the balloon. The professor actually has been working on a project that is very similar to what we need. We just need to have to figure out how to adapt it to work on the balloon. On the bottom of the balloon. We have to mount two. The camera fades away as Gus starts explaining all the details to Grinch, but not to bore the audience with the details again. The camera fades away. Okay, we repeated that. As the camera is completely faded, you hear another fart. Why? Why? Like, and you hear the Grinch say,
Excuse me.
oh my god. Alright, and then the narrator says, the Grinch is trained by the professor and Gus, being that they both know different operations of the newly designed balloon. The Grinch has just been assuming that Gus would go with him, but Gus told him he was on his own. because it was too dangerous to travel the unknown like that. It was at that point the Grinch realized just how dangerous it would be. The Grinch is determined, though, and he continues his training. The camera shows miscellaneous scenes of training with Gus and the professor. Gus says while pointing to instruments on the dashboard, "Now this is your compass, you know north, south, east, and west. Push this lever to go up and push this lever to go down."
Oh, this is simple. I'm ready to go. Hold on there, big fella. Those are 2 simple controls for this balloon. The rest gets a little more complicated.
The Grinch rubbing his hands together in excitement.
Bring it on!
Now this is your altimeter.
What?
Your altimeter.
This gives you your altitude.
I don't think my attitude is anyone's business but my own.
Gus slowly repeats. Attitude.
Attitude.
Meaning how high you are. The fucking humor in this is so bad. It's so bad. It's kind of... I mean, I guess it's for, like, children, but, like, this is, like... Oh, my God. I just want to, like, drive a screwdriver through my eardrums right now hearing myself read this. Oh, my God. I love this. The Grinch says while putting his arms to the side.
I knew that. I was just joking with you.
Now the gauge here is vertical speed.
What you call it? What?
Vertical speed. It's whether you are going up or down and how fast you are doing it. You don't want to do either too quickly.
Especially the down part. Boys, I think you forgot something. Where's the steering wheel?
Now there is no steering wheel.
What? Are you people crazy? What if I want to go that way? Or that way?
Okay, this is where the training gets difficult. The Grinch pulls out a notebook and a pencil from behind his ear and starts frantically writing down some notes. Okay. Usually, direction is changed with a combination of wind direction and altitude change, but the professor's modifications will help you. That's going to take some more training.
How do you spell altitude?
You don't have to worry about spelling it. The professor and I put together a manual with everything you will need to know. There is even an index with everything listed alphabetically.
Alpha what?
Alphabetically. You know, A, B, C, D. Oh, that's the professor saying that. Fuck. Alphabetically. You know, A, B, C, and D, and E.
I know what it means. What do you think? I'm stupid?
Of course not. It's just a lot for you to take in all at once. Let me explain a little about the steering, though we need to get it into the turbo part. The turbos are going to use a lot of fuel, so you need to use them when the wind is pushing you in the wrong direction.
Wrong direction? Got it.
So you fire up the turbos with this button here and adjust your speed with this control here. The camera fades away. Now the narrator says, Grinch has completed many hours of training. The camera can show him studying with the notebook, underlining items, circling items, and adding notes. The professor and Gus decide that the Grinch is ready as he will ever be. Now it's time for Grinch to practice lifting and landing. The professor stood aside while Grinch and Gus get on board the balloon. Grinch practices, starting off and rising well above the village. There is a breeze blowing north, which, as you know, is very common in Whoville. The Grinch practices steering the balloon back south with a combination of the propeller and the professor's turbine system. The camera can show him practicing, moving letters, pushing buttons, turbines firing up, and then they can show the Grinch landing the balloon in the same spot he lifted from. Now the narrator says again, the professor and Gus were extremely impressed with the Grinch's perfect landing. The Grinch, Gus, and the professor all agree he is ready for the trip. After thinking about the trip for a couple of days, Grinch decides it is time to make the trip, but suggests Martha should not go because it is too dangerous. The camera shows Grinch and Gus starting the process of filling the balloon with the hot air. The balloon is tied up and the villagers are starting to crowd around and cheer him off on his dangerous trip. The camera pans over to Martha May, who has tears rolling from her eyes. They all seem to understand his need to find his roots, but are all a little concerned as they have grown to love him. The balloon is nearly ready for liftoff, as the heater has been filling the balloon for a while. The mayor is in front of the crowd and he's so ecstatic that he can hardly control his excitement. As you remember, the mayor was the one that helped sway the Grinch into thinking he might finally find his family, if he is headed north. The camera shows the Grinch and Gus loading the balloon with food and supplies that are handed up to them by the professor. The stack of supplies is getting to the end when the Grinch looks back out at the crowd and does not see Martha. The Grinch leans over the side of the balloon and looks left and right and still does not see her. He walks to the other side of the balloon and looks and still does not see her. The Grinch, while cusping his hands around his mouth, yells out loudly,
Martha! Martha! Where are you?
The camera shows the crowd backing up and looking around to find her. You can hear everyone asking, "Where's Martha?"
Does anyone know where she is? I'm not leaving until I get my kiss goodbye.
You can hear all the women in the crowd. Ah! What the fuck? Clarinella, who works her way to the front of the crowd. Clarinella, if you don't remember, is the one of the caretakers that raised the Grinch.
Martha ran back to the house. She said you forgot something and it would be right back. Don't leave until she gets back.
Grinch pulls out his notebook and fumbles through several pages. Incredible. Incredible writing. Incredible storytelling.
Check, I got that.
He turns the page.
Check, I got that.
He turns the page.
Check, check, check.
He turns the page.
Check, got 2, got it. Check, check. Ooh, I got 6 of these.
He pulls out his wallet and opens it up, and the camera zooms in on his balloon license.
Got my license? I'm sure I got everything.
The camera pans out to Martha running towards the balloon, while struggling with a big suitcase in one hand and a picnic basket in the other, and yells out,
You forgot me!
Camera shows the entire crowd going,
Huh? Martha May, what are you doing?
You forgot me!
We talked about this over and over. The trip is too dangerous.
Let me on board. I want to give you some warm clothes and food in case you don't have enough. And more important, I want to give you a great big hug and kiss.
Ah! The Grinch opens the basket and Martha enters. He grabs the suitcase from her and she carries in the picnic basket. Martha closes the basket door and she tells the Grinch,
Take a look at those sandwiches I made for you. All your favorites.
As the Grinch reaches in the picnic basket, he focuses on the sandwiches. He is completely distracted, and she picks up and throws overboard 3 sandbags. The balloon starts to lift, and the 2 straps that are holding the balloon down pull out of the ground. The balloon starts to lift quicker. The crowd starts to gasp. Gus reaches for one strap but misses. The camera now zooms in on over the mayor's face. He's now realizing that his plan of ridding the Grinch forever has now backfired, as he may lose Martha May forever. The wind picks up as the mayor jumps forward and grabs a strap. He is lifted about 6 feet off the ground and can no longer hang on, and he falls to the ground. The crowd once again gasps in unison. The Grinch says to Martha May in his grumpy and now crazy voice,
What in the world is wrong with you? Are you crazy? You know I can turn this thing around and let it back down, don't ya?
Please don't. I love you and want to be a part of this. I have a good feeling about this. If you have family, I want to be a part of it too. If we have children, I want them to be a part of it too.
Grinch closes his eyes and slowly shakes his head. He opens them and says,
You are nuts. You know that?
Martha stares into his eyes and slowly nods her head up and down.
Well, I guess that works out because I'm nuts over you.
As the balloon continues to rise, they embrace each other and then lean over to wave goodbye to the cheering crowds below. The balloon continues to rise, and so now they can look down at the Mount Crimpet Park from an angle they have never seen before.
Look at that beautiful park. Just think, that's all there because of you.
Yup. Although I couldn't have done it without you. We are an awesome team.
The camera shows the balloon has now risen above the peak of Mount Crimpet. The Grinch looks at the compass to confirm the northern breeze is setting them in the right direction.
I just got to warn you, this won't be all fun and games. I'm thinking the nights are going to get quite cold.
Martha opens her suitcase and says,
I took that into consideration and packed some extra warm clothes.
She picks up a sweater and says,
See how this matches my eyeshadow?
Martha in a panic,
Oh, crap-a-dolly. You must turn this thing around to go back. I forgot my eyeshadow. I can't see your family looking like this.
2 things. 1, we are not turning this thing around. 2, you don't need makeup to look beautiful.
Yeah, but...
No buts allowed on this balloon.
Grinch looks into the camera, cups one hand around his mouth to whisper,
Especially big ones. We have to keep the weight
down on this thing.
Why is it like this?
Especially big ones. We have to keep the weight down on this thing.
Okay, but tell me the part about looking beautiful again.
They both giggle and sit next to each other. They slide together and cuddle. Ooh.
I just thought of something. How did you pack all that stuff and make all those sandwiches? You were gone for a little while.
Well, it's a long story. But I guess we got a lot of time to kill, so I guess I guess I can tell you from the start. A couple of days ago, Cornella called me and she wanted to talk. I went over to her place and she told me how it always broke her heart not being able to find out if you were delivered to Whoville by mistake. She told me about a nameplate that was in your Pumber basket that was ripped in two and part of the paper was missing. She never told you or anyone about it because she didn't want you to go out feeling like some sort of mistake. When she found out you were going on this trip, she thought it might be some sort of clue that might be helpful in finding your homeland. I told her I would give it to you and explain everything. I packed some clothes and extra food in case I could convince you to let me go. I decided not to go because I was actually scared. This morning I was going to just kiss you goodbye and give you this envelope with a note explaining the torn papers. When I saw Glenn on the cloud, she looked at me and blew me a kiss. I don't know what happened to me in that moment, but I changed my mind and I decided I was going with you. And nothing was going to stop me. So here I am.
So, what kind of sandwiches did you bring?
That's what he says to the whole exposition dump. That's awesome.
Are you kidding me? That's all you can think of right now?
The Grinch grins and shakes his head. He exhales loudly.
I think I might have had to lighten the moment because I, might have started bawling.
Boy, that heart of yours just keeps going. You are so sweet!
The Grinch stands up and turns the propellers on for a moment to make a slight adjustment to correct their northern route and sits back down next to Martha.
So what's this paper you're talking about?
I'll show you when the time is right. Okay? Not now.
The camera pans back to Mount Crimpet. You can barely see it in the background.
Who's watching Max and Yoo-Hoo?
Yep.
Yup? What do you mean, yup? Who's watching the dogs?
Yes, you are correct.
I'm correct? I'm not even sure if I know what I'm talking about.
Martha while laughing.
Cindy Lou Who is watching the dogs. She's going to walk them around and feed them every day.
Could you please explain to me why everyone's last name has a who in it?
Because that's what we do when you're a who from Whoville.
The Grinch shakes his head and moves his hands to gesture confusion.
But why do you who's do what you do? Oh, never mind.
Martha snuggles up closer while laughing, and the Grinch joins in laughing also. The camera can show the Grinch adding some heat to the balloon, and then pan below to show the thick, heavy forest below them as far as the eye can see. And now the narrator says, they ride into the night. Everything went surprisingly well. Martha May got a good night's rest, and even the Grinch got several moments of sleep. Just checking all the gauges to make sure they were still heading north, and maintaining the proper altitude, of course. When the sun rose the next morning, they were a little disappointed they couldn't see any mountains on the horizon, but they figured they had enough fuel for up to 9 days of travel, including the trip back. And now...
Day 2,
of trip.
Okay, I think that's gonna be it for this. I have literally, oh my god, I've barely slept over the last day recording all that and cutting all the audio together. So yeah, I'm gonna tap out here because that was like 30 pages of this document and it's like 90 pages long. But thank you all for listening to this video if you've made it this far. Hopefully not. But yeah, I had a really fun time making this and yeah, Merry Christmas, Matt. Merry Christmas to all watching this, or Happy Holidays to whatever you celebrate or whatever you don't celebrate. I hope you're having a good time. But yeah, if you'd like to see me read further in this little Grinch story here, just let me know, and maybe if enough people like this, I will, keep going, keep trudging through, because this has been a slog to get through, and a pain to edit this all together. But yeah, yeah, thank you, and I appreciate your time. Merry Christmas. I'll see you around.